After everything that happened here in Western North Carolina with Hurricane Helene, and now the fires in our home state of California, there's some of these things that all of us, just as Americans, we need to start to realize this. Hey friends, I know we've been sharing so much here lately after our family was hit with Hurricane Helene here in Western North Carolina, and everything that's been going on out here with the recovery process, which is so beyond far from over. And now, as a born and raised girl from Southern California, watching what is happening back in our home state, we have friends and family that are directly impacted by the fires going on there. We know what it's like to live in Southern California and deal with these fires, and to see everything that's going on, from coast to coast. It's one of those things that it was like, man, there are some of these things that we just have got to realize as a nation, as neighbors, as people, moving forward, and what life really does need to look like from here on out. We all have the ability each and every day to learn a little more, to grow a little more, to band together and to make changes. And these are 7 that I think we cannot afford to ignore any longer. Now, one of those is definitely personal preparedness. Now, I'm not talking you have to go be like some crazy prepper who is doing all this stuff, and you don't have to get that image in mind. But I know for us, when the hurricane hit here in North Carolina, it made no sense. We live in the mountains. Hurricanes do not act like this, like that. It was so out of the norm that we were not prepared in any way, shape, or form for the level of what happened. But I think the reality is these things are only getting more and more extreme. And there's many different reasons for that. We don't even have to break that down now. The truth is just that it's happening. And so understanding a level of personal preparedness that we all have to have for ourselves. When we become more prepared, that allows us to respond in a much different way when these things come out. And I think many times we're all busy. We have a lot going on, right? Funds are tight. I mean, there's lots of different reasons, but we need to start taking personal preparedness a lot more serious. The second thing that I think we need to look at is just our overall reliance of the grid. We've seen this so many times and probably experienced it at some point where the power goes down, internet goes out, something happens, and it really does throw us all for such a loop. I think of, ice storms that have happened in Texas. I think of, out here, it was crazy to see the satellite views after Hurricane Helene hit and just how much of the Southeast had zero power. Trying to live through that and adjust and do all of that really was a big wake-up call for us. We had with this winter storm that we're dealing with here in North Carolina right now. Leading up to it, we had this, massive storm with these winds that came through, and so many trees are compromised that it was knocking power and internet out all over the place. And when we start to realize how much we rely on the grid for everything. I mean, our hospitals, our businesses, our homes, our work, everything relies so heavily on the grid. And I get that, right? I'm saying that as someone who all my work I do is online. But we really need to look at that. And I know since the hurricane, it's been something that has really been an area of focus for our family, of ways that we can start to make adjustments to not rely 100% on the grid, so that way when things do go down, we can still manage, we can still get through. My family that lives back in California, and even my family that isn't directly in the path of the fires right now in the Los Angeles area, power is out. They're having to divert things. All of this is having to go down. Hundreds of thousands of people without any power and standard utilities. And I think we're only going to continue to see more and more of this. We've got to realize that we cannot rely on this grid like we've been so used to doing. I think these emergencies have really shown us just how important it is to be truly connected to community. Something that we noticed here, the response of just any sort of governmental system after Hurricane Helene hit, and even now, months later, the response from any governmental system that I think we all kind of have been led to believe is going to be there to do something has been so minuscule. It's quite honestly disgusting. And seeing reports of people already coming out of Los Angeles and being like, what is going on? Where are the services? Where is all of this? It's really just echoing what we've all been saying out here in the mountains of North Carolina, that these systems that we've always been told would be there, they aren't. And they are so mismanaged, and funds are directed away, and the chain of command, right? There's so much that goes into this. And what matters is community. For the first time, we actually have cars being able to get down the road. Super exciting out here. We've been snowed in for days. So super exciting that cars are actually moving around. The community is able to get up and get around. The biggest thing we saw in North Carolina after the hurricane was community, was churches, was neighbors, were people from neighbors from, other states that were driving in and coming in to help us get out, right? Help us get supplies, help us get moving forward. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing a lot coming out of in Los Angeles as well. But I think that's something that each and every day we can start to realize how important community is. I know we all live in this world that has pushed us so much to get online and disconnected, and nobody shows up for things anymore, and we just want to go home and kind of disconnect and go off into our own little bubble. And I think we've really lost community in so many ways. And that's something that we really need to bring back, because especially in these times of trouble, in these things that happen that are so unexpected, that are so extreme, we need that community to be there. Because when stuff goes down, when stuff gets serious, that is going to be the key difference. And I will say, as a Californian here in the mountains of Western North Carolina, little towns of the Southeast sure know a lot more about community. And I have learned so much from that. It is such a beautiful way to live. And I think it's something that we all need to bring a little more into focus. Good morning, Ruth. Good morning, Ruthie Doo. Hello, sweetheart. Can you not find any grass? It's all frozen. And all of that adds to the next point, which is we need to be people with hearts of service, especially in these situations that we go through. But in the in-between ones as well, the daily, the mundane, when we go out in our communities to work, to school, to the grocery stores, to whatever it is that we're doing, even just around our own homes, having that heart of service, that willingness to help out a neighbor, help out a total stranger, help out someone who doesn't even deserve it, to be able to extend that loving gesture of we're all in this together. We're all mankind. How about instead of feeling the need to divide because you voted for him and I voted for her, or you voted for this and I voted for that, or I'm in this tax bracket and you're down in that one, or whatever the case may be. How about we come together? We extend that heart of service. Yes, starting in our own homes. We all can do that in our marriages, with our children, with our own family, our own kind of circle of influence. But then in any instance that we get where we run into someone and go, hey, let me share. I've got one extra. Do you need some? Can I help you with this? I see you're struggling with that. Let me lend this. And it's not about getting something in return, because it is always greater to give than to receive. And when we all start moving forward with this attitude of gratitude and this love and service for one another, that starts to have a massive, massive impact. And I think that's something that America, especially today, I don't live in any other country, so I can't speak for them, but I know we could really use more of that here. Something that I have found to be really interesting is I have been watching a few different podcasts that completely from a secular viewpoint, nothing religious whatsoever in it. And to see these secular opinions of just understanding the breakdown of family and how much it has damaged literally life as we know it. The family units have got to be strengthened. You look at so many ways over the past, few decades that families are just getting further and further apart, more and more disconnected. Nobody even, you see all the sheep. They're a little upset because their grass is covered in snow. I know, sweetheart. The snow is ruining everything for you, huh? We see so much how family has just continued to get broken down. Marriage is not held in any form of regard in a positive light anymore. Dads are out of the home. Moms are in the workplace, right? So much is just continuously disconnected. And the family unit has got to be restored. And that's not something that needs to get legislated. That's not something that needs to get, an infrastructure built for it. That is a difference that we can all start making literally today. Wherever we're at, whatever situation we're in, we can start to prioritize family restoration. Whether that's building up your marriage, whether that's being more active and present and invested in your children, whether that's reaching out to family members that you don't even make time for, right? We get busy, we get going, it happens. I'm not placing blame, but I'm saying we all can choose today to say, you know what, you're right. I should reach out to my family more. I should make time to see how they're doing. I should give my grandparent a call, right? I should sit down and do some one-on-one, just reconnection with my husband. I should invest in my kids a little more. When a society's family unit falls apart, a society falls apart. Now, America's a mess, but our family unit got destroyed decades ago, and we're only now living out the result of that. We've got to start seeing restoration to marriage and family, because that's going to have a huge impact on all of these other areas we're talking about. And definitely leave me comments down in the description, because this is meant to be a discussion. This is meant to be something that really allows us to think about these things that we're going through. Yes, we can focus on the tragedies, and there are plenty happening. But what do we do with that? How do we move forward? And I think that leads here into the sixth point of the misguided agendas that we are seeing from our government. And we're seeing them because as a culture, that's what we have been wanting to push. And I saw Elon Musk reshared this video that someone did talking about the fires in California, and I can link it down below. And I saw that just popped up in my feed, and I was looking at that this morning. And again, we don't even have to look at this, sure, from a religious standpoint, we can look at this and say, well, yeah, I mean, I can open up scripture and show you, from step 1 to 100. Yes, like this is so on point. But then I love it when you see it from just a completely secular source even, who goes, what is going on? You guys, this makes no sense. We've been pushing and pushing and pushing as a nation that we need equality, we need everybody accepted, we need, we have all of these agendas that are getting pushed, and they're getting pushed over common sense. Why do you think I'm so passionate about homeschool? It's because our education system is garbage. Why do you think I'm so passionate about family? Because our communities are so broken. Why do you think I'm so passionate about biblical truth? Because even the mainstream popular churches out there are so lost. Our society as a whole has gotten so misguided in these things. You watch, the elections of the past few cycles, and you just go, what is this? Like, there's no common sense anymore. This is crazy. Our healthcare is disgusting. And I really feel like all of these lines are starting to unravel, and we're starting to see this of like, man, what is going on? We are seeing the results and the full-on breakdown because of so many misguided agendas. And until we start learning about these things, becoming educated ourselves, having these conversations within our families of what is going on, what really matters, is this how we should deal with things? Our school system isn't going to teach our children, logic and common sense anymore. So we've got to step up and really start leading the way in this and going, what are we letting our own nation, our own lives, what are we letting them become because of such misguided agendas that we have allowed as a whole, whether you haven't or not, right? But we've allowed this as a whole to go on for so long that the breakdown is just absolutely blaring in the event of things like this. I'll say it, from COVID to now. I mean, we're only seeing it brighter and brighter and brighter. And my seventh and final point that I think is important for us all to start realizing, from us here dealing with Hurricane Helene to everybody out in California dealing with these fires and everything else in between that we don't even know is happening necessarily. We as a people have got to find truth and purpose again. There are these ideals that we think of, these kind of nostalgic feelings when we think back to how things used to be. But I think a large part of that was truly that the community, that mankind as a whole, really had an understanding of truth and purpose, because life really was based in a scriptural basis. Now, yes, I am a Christian. I absolutely believe in the wholeness of God's word. And I think when we started to switch from understanding the truth to truth being this subjective thing, right? I can have my truth, you can have your truth, and what is truth, right? That we go from wanting to understand that there is a basic, whole, direct truth to everybody can just make up their own. It's all subjective and can be changed on a whim. And when we started giving into this lie, we wanted so wholly to reject the truth of God that we started believing that we could all be our own gods and make our own truth and follow our own whims and our own subjective thoughts. Hello, little sheepies. The more that we did that, the more lost we became, the more hurting and fragmented our society started to be. And when there is no truth, because we've all decided to make up our own, look at where that's leading us. Look at how incomplete people feel. You look at the depression rates, anxiety rates. I mean, you can go on and on for days of all these things that we're dealing with in the largest numbers we've ever seen in the world. And everybody's like, man, I don't know what's happening. Well, we've traded the truth for a lie, and we're dealing with the consequence of what that looks like. And I know for me that this can be such an overwhelming thing to want to try to figure out. I know years back, even after growing up in the church, I'd never read the Bible. I didn't understand these things. And, I heard what people said, but I didn't know it for myself. And I sat down and I dedicated myself to just, I'm going to read through this whole thing. I'm going to read it for myself and see what's going on. And it was this just life-changing experience. And even this year, we've started in our membership group here, we're reading through the entirety of Scripture, just book by book, line by line, as a group, kind of reading through and discussing these things together. And if you want to join us, you are more than welcome to join whenever you find this. I will leave the details down below in the description. But if we can't understand what truth is, and we're going to continue to be just tossed about like a little ship out at sea by every whim of truth somebody wants to come and peddle, it hasn't had any good results yet. And I know that finding truth and purpose absolutely makes the difference. Now, I think really, prayerfully and intentionally pondering through these points will have a huge difference for all of us as we work through just the state of the world today and everything that we're all being faced with, and the weight of dealing with such horrible tragedies, one right after the other. If you want some encouragement of just ways to find peace and restoration this winter, because I know for here, with everything that we're dealing with in Western North Carolina, still from Hurricane Helene, and now with these winter storms coming through, I think this video is going to help, because this is one I just shared. How do we find this peace and restoration? Because this stuff is heavy, it is difficult, but it doesn't mean that we're without hope. I'll see you over there. Bye, friends.